In the autumn of 1912, British and French military officials gathered in Paris to discuss a shared concern. German railway construction near the Belgian border had accelerated significantly over the previous decade. Engineering reports indicated these lines were designed for rapid military deployment, not commercial traffic. The routes led directly toward France and Belgium, bypassing Germany's heavily fortified eastern border with France. Several analysts warned that Germany was preparing for a swift attack through neutral Belgium, a violation of international treaties. The warnings were noted, filed, and largely set aside. Belgium had maintained neutrality since 1839, guaranteed by treaty among Europe's major powers, including Britain, France, and Germany. Military planners in Paris and London assumed this neutrality would be respected. Even if Germany considered violating it, the assumption was that such a move would be limited, perhaps a minor incursion to secure tactical advantage. Few believed Germany would commit its entire western offensive through Belgian territory. The idea seemed too reckless, too certain to bring Britain into any conflict. Throughout 1913 and early 1914, additional intelligence reached French and British officials. Railway timetables were analyzed. Troop concentrations near the Belgian frontier were observed. A German military document, later known as the Schlieffen Plan, had actually been discussed in European military journals years earlier. It outlined a massive sweeping attack through Belgium to encircle French forces before turning east to face Russia. The plan was not secret in concept, though its details remained unclear. Yet the strategic implications were often dismissed as theoretical or outdated. French military doctrine in this period focused on offensive spirit and rapid attack. Plan 17, France's war strategy, called for immediate advances into Alsace-Lorraine, territories lost to Germany in 1871. French commanders believed that aggressive action and high morale would overcome defensive positions. Fortifications along the Franco-German border were strengthened, but the northern border with Belgium remained lightly defended. The assumption held that any German move through Belgium would be secondary to the main battle further south. When Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914, the event triggered a chain of diplomatic failures and alliance obligations. Within weeks, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Russia mobilized to support Serbia. Germany declared war on Russia, then on France. On August 2nd, Germany demanded free passage through Belgium to attack France. Belgium refused. The following day, German forces crossed the Belgian border in massive strength, just as the railway analysis had suggested years earlier. The German advance through Belgium was not a limited incursion. 800,000 troops moved through the small nation in a carefully coordinated operation. Belgian forces, though determined, were vastly outnumbered and fell back toward Antwerp. Civilians fled as German units swept westward. The speed and scale of the attack caught French forces unprepared. British officials, bound by treaty to defend Belgian neutrality, declared war on Germany on August 4th. The warning that had been ignored was now a crisis involving all of Europe's major powers. French armies advancing into Alsace-Lorraine under Plan 17 met entrenched German defenses and suffered devastating casualties. Meanwhile, German columns pushed through Belgium and into northern France, threatening to encircle Paris. The French government relocated to Bordeaux. Desperate counterattacks along the Marne River in early September finally halted the German advance, but at tremendous cost. What military planners had expected to be a short, decisive conflict became a prolonged stalemate. By the end of 1914, both sides had dug hundreds of miles of trenches from the English Channel to the Swiss border. The war that many thought would end by Christmas had only begun. Over the next 4 years, the conflict consumed resources and lives on a scale previously unimaginable. Military expenditures ran into hundreds of billions of dollars in today's terms. Entire economies were reorganized for war production. Blockades caused widespread hunger. New weapons, including poison gas and tanks, were deployed with horrific effectiveness. The human cost was staggering. Estimates suggest that over 9 million soldiers died during the First World War. Civilian deaths from violence, disease, and starvation may have exceeded 10 million. Empires that had stood for centuries collapsed. The Russian, Ottoman, German, and Austro-Hungarian empires all ceased to exist. The map of Europe and the Middle East was redrawn. Economic damage left nations in debt for decades. The social fabric of entire societies was torn apart. Historians point to the failure to act on warnings about German intentions as one of several factors that allowed the war to unfold as it did. Had French and British planners taken seriously the evidence of German preparations along the Belgian frontier, defenses might have been positioned differently. Had diplomatic efforts focused more intently on preventing Belgium from becoming a battleground, the crisis might have evolved differently. Had the assumption of limited conflict been questioned more rigorously, nations might have sought harder to avoid war altogether. The treaty obligations and alliance systems that governed European politics in 1914 were designed to prevent war through mutual deterrence. Instead, they created a mechanism where a regional crisis could rapidly expand into a continental catastrophe. The belief that Germany would respect Belgian neutrality, despite evidence suggesting otherwise, reflected a broader failure to imagine how rapidly the international order could collapse. Assumptions about quick victories and limited engagements proved tragically wrong. The economic consequences of the First World War extended far beyond its immediate costs. War debts reshaped international finance. Reparations imposed on Germany created economic instability that contributed to the rise of extremism in the following decades. Trade patterns were disrupted for years. Infrastructure across Belgium and northern France required massive reconstruction. Agricultural land damaged by trench warfare and chemical weapons remained unusable for generations in some areas. The warnings about German military preparations in Belgium were not hidden or obscure. They existed in official reports, railway schedules, and published military theory. Yet institutional inertia, confidence in existing plans, and the difficulty of imagining a truly catastrophic outcome prevented effective response. The assumption that international norms would hold, even under pressure, proved insufficient when tested by determined violation. The First World War fundamentally altered the course of the 20th century. What began with an assassination in Sarajevo and accelerated through a failure to heed warnings about German intentions became a conflict that consumed Europe for 4 years and set conditions for future conflicts. The costs were measured not only in immediate destruction, but in the reshaping of societies, economies, and international relations for generations. The evidence had been available, the warnings had been issued, but the systems and assumptions that governed decision-making in the years before 1914 were not prepared to act on them. The scale of what was lost became fully apparent only when the war finally ended, leaving behind a transformed world built on the ruins of the old.